हरे कृष्णा। श्री श्री राधा माधव अष्ट सखी की जय। पंचतत्व भगवान की जय। प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्री श्री नृसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। हरे कृष्णा। वेरी वेरी warm welcome to everybody for this morning's japa yagna. As always, on behalf of our leaders, firstly, I'd like to thank all those japa leads who came in and performed their services nicely. So we always move on to the next part, discussing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So before that, we'll have a short kirtan. जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जयो राधमाधव कुञ्ज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जयो गांधर्विक गिरिधारी गांधर्विक गिरिधारी गौर हरि जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा जयो अनंत दे लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा जयो अनंत दे नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. We are reading from chapter 2, titled Canto 2, Chapter 1, titled The First Step in God Realization. And we are today discussing the verse 10. We'll just go through the verse. तदहं ते विदस्यामि महापौरुषिको भवान् यस्य श्रद्धा शेष्य श्रद्धाधाम आसु स्यायन् मुकुंदे मति सति। We'll go through again. तदाहं ते विदस्यामि महापौरुषिको भवान् यस्य श्रद्धात्मम् असु स्यायान् मुकुंदे मतः सति। Translation, word to word meaning, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and the giver of salvation. Uh, Purport is a very big one. I'll just start little and then as in when we continue the class we shall. Srimad Bhagavatam is recognized Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Pantha, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through a bona fide disciplic succession. For advancement of material knowledge, there is a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of spiritual master. The spiritual master may be satisfied with his disciple only then is the knowledge automatically manifested before the student of spiritual science. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feast, whereas the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple, as if surcharging him with an electric current. The bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple of the authorities of Vedic wisdom. Okay, and of course it goes on, gives wonderful, Prabhupada gives some references and a long purport. We will discuss this as we go through. उमज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपगदामह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांस श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। विष्णु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। So we'll read the verse again. Tada tadaham te बिभत्स्यामि महापौरुषिको भवान् यस्य श्रद्धात्मानासु स्वयं मुकुन्दे मतैः सति। That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are my most sincere devotee of the Lord, and one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So, firstly, before I start, my voice is audible?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Before I even start, I would like to thank all the leaders giving me an opportunity to discuss a little about Srimad Bhagavatam. I pray that all my efforts of glorifying this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is in the right spirit and well within the mood of what the Acharyas want us to speak about. Needless to say, this is done for my own purification and hope it pleases all the Vaishnavas, Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and the entire Guru Parampara. Okay, so we came to know from the first few, all the Vaishnavas in our group spoke about a couple of verses, almost 8, 9 verses. Okay, so what is it giving? It's giving an indication of what is the qualification of a person to become a good hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? We all discussed yesterday also, hearing was the foundation, right? So in this one, there is a specific line, Yasya Shraddhatam. Okay, so there is one gives full respect. What is Prabhupada translated it as? Gives full respect and attention, right? So this is a qualification, right? Again, of course, we know Shraddha means faith, and faith means simply becoming a devotee, right? Just meaning to say we simply accept the authority of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? As simple as that. No other way to understand what is faith, right? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the importance of accepting transcendental knowledge or spiritual knowledge from bona fide spiritual master. So again, here it says both of them should be qualified. Very interesting here. The speaker and the receiver or hearer, right? Very often in we have seen the Srila Prabhupada quotes an analogy, right? If a man and woman are married, they get married and they expect a child. If both are fertile, they will have a child in due course. I mean, there is no doubt about that. So similarly here, there is a small qualification coming in. Both should be qualified. What does Prabhupada write in the purport? In the, I think the last paragraph. Yeah. So therefore, anyone who follows there was none so attentive as Maharaj Parikshit in the matter of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was none so qualified as Sukadeva Goswami to recite the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Prabhupada goes on to say, and therefore, anyone who follows in the footstep of either the ideal reciter or the ideal hearer, Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit respectively, will undoubtedly attain salvation like them. Maharaj Parikshit attained salvation by hearing only, and Sukadeva Goswami attained salvation by reciting. Recitation and hearing are two processes out of the 9 devotional processes, and strenuously following the principles either in all or by parts, one can attain absolute plane. So we can see that he's giving qualification, right? So transcendental knowledge is very essential, and what is again, hearing is the foundation of spiritual progresses, right? So you can see that even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the 7th chapter, the very first verse, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, he says, Maya Asakta Manapartha Yogam Yujjana Mat Ashraya Asamshaya Samagraha Mam Yata Jnaschu Tatshunu. So Bhakti starts by hearing. What is saying? Tatshunu, now hear from me. Right? Lord is saying, oh son of Partha, by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me. Yes, he writes in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you will know me in full. And then he gives the wonderful clarification, free from doubt. Okay, of course, Prabhupada quotes 5 wonderful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto, I think second chapter. I'll just quickly go through. Srinvatan Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. Then he says, Nasta Prayasho Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavate Seya, Tatas Rajastamo Bhava. Okay, and then Evam Prasanna Manaso. I recollect His Grace Srivas Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu always used to use quote from this verse. Then last, Pibatyate Hriday Grantasti. So, what is this summary? I have to read from this purport of the 7th chapter. These purports of all the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just quickly go through. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature or to hear from him directly through Bhagavad Gita itself is a righteous activity. See? And anyone who hears about Krishna, that is Lord Krishna who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing him. See what's happening by hearing? You understood. The second will go. In a way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. The translation is already develops. He doesn't say transcendental knowledge new. It's a dormant knowledge. And hears more and more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in devotional service. Right? By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material less and avarice is diminished. And let's see what is the other one. Tajas is over. When the impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in the position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. The last one. Thus, the Bhakti Yoga serves as a hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsaya. That is where samagraha. That is the understanding of the Supreme Personality, Supreme Absolute Truth of Godhead. So these are the verses explanation from 17 to 21. What is the last proper lights in the last line? Therefore, only by hearing Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. So clear, right? So there in the beginning he says purifies, and then he says how we can be freed, then how we can remain steady in the pure goodness, and then how the hard knot of material affection is kind of removed, severes that. Why? By understanding the absolute truth. That asamshaya will go, right? So Hearing seems to be, very easy, right? But it gives so much benefit in Krishna consciousness or progress. So Krishna also says, again in the ninth chapter, the very first verse, idam tu te guhyatam. And then what does he say? Last jnana vijnana sahitam. Then Mokshasya Ashubhat, the last line. That is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart you the most confident knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved the miseries of. So, Pravakshyasyami Anushyasya ve. So, again, so the first qualification we were discussing in the beginning, it looked like you first need to have hearing is the foundation, right? Now slowly the second one is now another qualification seem to be added, is not being envious, right? Nusuyave. Okay. Now, when the transcendental knowledge you get it and you have full faith in hearing, what will happen is two things in this verse we can make out: moksha and ashubha, that is free from miseries. Okay. Now, just see the benefits by hearing. If now one looks like one small caveat is there. If you don't hear it in full faith, what happens? You will fall back in the mrityu samsara, material world. Okay, that is a caveat. What is it? It's like almost saying it's useless if you don't have faith. Now you might be wondering, what is this, Prabhuji's, you Mataji's? You just now told that you should hear, and now you're saying if you don't hear with faith, it is no useful. No, it doesn't look contradictory. All I'm just trying to say is that uh, if you don't hear it with faith, you don't get the full, the full benefit, whatever you are aspiring. I mean, the full purification, right? Obviously, we all know that neha bhimikramanasya swalpamasya dharmasya. So even whatever little you do, you get benefit. But trying to say, if you don't do it, if you don't hear all this with faith, the purification will take place in a much faster process, a much advanced, fast speed, right? So we must develop this. We heard this word right in Bhagavatam, so many places, laulyam, the greediness to hear Krishna Katha. To get the topmost result, we need to have that laulyam. I want to hear more and more. I mean, you all must experience this yourself. After hearing so much, only we develop little taste in everything, right? We didn't, not in the first few classes, we said we will do service and things like that, right? So that way we need to develop that laulyam. So Guru is saying so many things, right? Especially our Gurudev, from the Guru Agna program in Madurai, and now if you see, almost all his classes seem to be one instruction or the other for us. Clearly, we don't have to go to him for instruction. There are clear instructions. But what is the use of hearing it if we don't have that faith that it is possible and I can be a small instrument to it? Technically, even Duryodhana heard the entire Bhagavad Gita being recited, or many others. It was not even a live recording. It was absolute. It was not even a recording. It was live. Still, they didn't have the benefit. So, what does it mean? Hearing has to be with faith. That's a small caveat. Otherwise, it's useless in a way, in the sense that it'll have a small effect, some sukriti, and slowly it has to take time. Now, can hearing be separated from glorifying? No, because it's Shravanam and Kirtanam. Both has to happen. Then what will happen if you do both? Smaranam will automatically happen. So Srila Prabhupada says the about first two, I read somewhere, right? These two are the uh, 9 activities, somewhere we read. Yeah. So hearing, reciting and hearing are the two processes out of the 9 devotional activities, and by strenuously following the principles, either by in all or in parts, one can attain absolute pain. Very clearly, it's written, you can attain, right? Now, of course, in the next few verses, so interesting, in the next chapter, Saunaka Rishi will explain that if you don't hear Krishna Katha, what will happen to our ears? He explains something like, it becomes like a snake hole. And if you don't, utter from your tongue Krishna Katha, it becomes like the frog simply shouting, croaking. So that interestingly, I heard that Prabhupada says the tongue becomes unfaithful if you don't glorify Krishna and his pure devotees. I found that very interesting. How is it unfaithful? Anyway, that's a separate topic we can discuss. Now, why should we glorify the pure devotee? Plain and simple. He's simply carrying, the pure devotee simply carrying Mukunda in his heart. Right? We must sing glories of these devotees. Right? Because hearing about the devotee or their pastime is as good as hearing about Krishna. Right? Prabhujis and Matajis, please note, you don't think only hearing Krishna's pastime is as sweet or, it's so nice. Don't we enjoy pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, or even sometimes a realization of a simple devotee? I mean, it's so much assurance giving, so much sweet to hear, right? I recollect one pastime of Srila Prabhupada. I heard there was a Mataji who was asking a question, saying that it's nice to know, Prabhupada, you always says we must remember Krishna at the end of our lives. It's good to know that, but what if I cannot remember Krishna, and if I can remember you, what happens to me? Mm, It was wonderful question. I'm sure all of you are waiting to know what Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada closed his eyes, and after some serious thought, serious meditation, he came out and said, "Yes, it's okay. It has the same effect." Wow, how wonderful. So remembering Srila Prabhupada or a Gurudev or whoever is a pure devotee is like remembering Krishna. So now it establishes why even hearing glories about devotee, or why we should glorify a pure devotees who are pure, and it's as good as glorifying Krishna. Right. So back to the verse. There is, like I said, there are so many important points, but we'll try and cover as much as possible. So Krishna mentions, so Prabhupada says that Krishna is Mahapurusha, right? So where is this professional recite? Yeah, Lord Krishna is described as Mahapurusha in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, and his devotional feature as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself in his devotional attitude, descends on earth to bestow special favors onto the fallen souls of this age of Kali. And then Prabhupada offers two verses particularly suitable to offer prayers to Mahapurusha, feature of Krishna. That is from 11th canto, 5th chapter, 33 and 34. Right? And he goes on to say that Purusha means enjoyer. I'm giving the explanation. Mahapurusha means supreme enjoyer, and the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, that is the supreme enjoyer. One who deserves to approach the supreme Lord is Sri Krishna, is called the Mahapurushika. Anyone who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a bona fide desire, sure to become sincere devotee who is able to award liberation. Anyway, the point is that uh, he is the supreme enjoyer. Who? Krishna. But sometimes we have the tendency to be a Purusha, right? Partial enjoyer, right? That's because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Mama Vamsa Jiva Loke. We all know that. But we must know who's the Mahapurusika, the supreme enjoyer, right? Why? Because we have this tendency in a minute quality, I mean, it could be quantity, right? Because everything, see, we know Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, everything is meant for his enjoyment, and we are the enjoyer. But, like I said, the tendency is there. Why? Because obviously, we have millions and millions of birth, we've been, uh, been taking birth because we wanted to enjoy. Like, we say we never wanted to be Dasu, Dasa, Anudasa. We always wanted to be the other way around. Prabhu always says Basu, Basa, Anubasa. Like, that is a tendency. We are carrying that. So, how do we come to this platform of being enjoyed? Simply, undoubtedly, the chanting of the holy name will bring us to the stage of being enjoyed or accepting him as the supreme enjoyer. So how? Again, I'm repeating, only by the chanting of the holy name. Now, Srila Prabhupada says in this purport in one place, he says, either in parts or in one can attain the absolute plane. Now, what is he talking about, absolute plane? We all know that, right? It means that we, in our original position as an eternal servant of Krishna, right? So, like I said, the very next verse itself glorifies the chanting of the holy name. Now, and it goes on to say it's a fearless way of attaining success. It's fearless because Krishna is present in the holy name, right? And then obviously the holy name protects his devotees. So which means Krishna protects his devotees, right? So once Srila Prabhupada was in London, and I think London. He was conversing in a room. Typical room conversations were going on, and then he heard some devotees having some, sounds of kartal, and they were all, I think, stepping out to do some sankirtan. And then immediately Prabhupada stopped the conversation. He peeped out of this window, and then, so the other devotees were mentioning that Prabhupada had this big smile. It was going close to his ears. So he then sat down and he was trying to, tell. I mean, point is that Prabhupada was so pleased with the Sankirtan activity. He sat down and first thing he told was that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will protect them personally, right? The protection is the guarantee from becoming abhaya. So, see, which means Sankirtan gives protection, right? Sankirtan means we are protected. What an assurance, reassurance, right? We are all of us doing some very small way of making an attempt to do some book distribution currently. Wow, it's so nice to know that each one of us, when you're going out, we are personally protected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. See, this is, of course, we are all doing Srimad Bhagavatam daily discussion reading. That also is guaranteed, right? Because it clearly says Shoka Moha Bhaya is taken away, right? So my point is that Srila Prabhupada made this statement. He said they are personally protected. So we should not doubt the statement of an Acharya. This is what I am trying to say when I say faith, right? I'll even give an incident which happened to my friend. This happened a couple of years back. He was in the United States of America. My good friend Sridhar Subramaniam, who was also the colleague of Raghuram Rajan, who was working for the International Monetary Fund. So he was protected. How? I'll tell you. I mean, I think those days, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj and all had come there, and somehow my friend got an opportunity, and I think Maharaj had told him, "Why don't you distribute?" Or it is not even distribute. I think he was just the service given to him was carrying Srimad Bhagavatam from one state to another state. Somebody wanted it, and he had to do the service. I don't know. Somehow he got this opportunity, and he took this, grabbed this, and he was telling me that he had loaded so much of books behind the car. It was a sedan, and he had loaded it. And he was going, and there is, I think, what's happening in Delhi is similarly there. It's fog, and people couldn't see each other. That the visibility was pretty low, and there was this huge accident. The car came and rammed this car from the back, and this entire cause was thrown in. And later on they have this huge study, right? In US, they will all tell how it happened, what happened, and they figured out that the entire people were protected in this car. He and along with some devotees were purely because Srimad Bhagavatam book took the boxes took the major impact. And my friend that day realized that he didn't even start Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam protected him. I mean, his faith increased so much more multiples, and he's still in chanting the holy name, and he's still a devotee. So my point is that uh, when we say Bhagavatam also protects, the holy name protects, and Bhagavatam protects. Sankirtan, he did just the one aspect of Sankirtan, and look how the Lord protected him. So one last example of Srila Prabhupada. Again, during the morning walks, a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, a flower is considered beautiful when it is having full of fragrance. And he was giving another example. Similarly, a mother is also considered, beautiful when she gave birth to a child. So the disciple wanted to, kind of ask that when is a disciple considered beautiful? He was thinking he'll impress Srila Prabhupada with this kind of question, right? But Srila Prabhupada did not like his devotee, whoever thinks he's smart, by asking smart question and things like that, right? It's very clear. We all know that the question should be very submissive, and the intention should be get the solution or the right answer, and not to, in a way, prove that I've understood this better, or just to show that I'm intelligent. Those kind of motives are always not very, what do we say, tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Okay, the seva is there. There is a lot of hidden and meanings in that, right? So Anyway, Prabhupada just ignored, he didn't reply to the message, he started walking. Okay. But what happened? That very same day, Prabhupada was giving another class in a small room, and this devotee was there. The devotee who had asked this question. So Srila Prabhupada asked this question to everybody: how do you please Krishna? And guess what? The same devotee who had questioned in the morning walk quoted the eighth verse, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasada naga kopi, dhyayantuvam tasya yasastri sandhya, vande guru shri charanara vrinda. How? By doing Yasya Tri Sandhya. That is, by the mercy of spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of spiritual master, one cannot make any advancements. And therefore, I should remember and praise the spiritual master. How many times? Yes, yes, three sandhya. At least three times in a day, I should offer my respectful obeisances on the lotus feet of spiritual master, it says. So he quoted this verse and he told them. Then Srila Prabhupada said, yes, by pleasing the spiritual master, Krishna will be pleased. Okay, and then he turned to this devotee and said that at that time, this disciple will be very beautiful. So, he chose the right moment to say that, uh, you know, his disciple will be beautiful only when he pleases the spiritual master, the leaders. That is the way they achieve success, right? How nice it would be, right? In all our lives, if we make it our goal, the very goal of existence, if we may say that, just to please the spiritual master. Wonderful. So, just a few days back, we heard from His Grace Madhusudan Vishnudas, right? Who had come down from Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education at our leader's Mathurapati Madhusudan's house. What did he say? Seva itself brings blessings, right? He said, uh, and then he used many things. Service perfects your lives, okay? And he also